Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It is Friday, so we're having a KSA, and we are joined by Casey. Hi.
Hello.
So we have a bunch of questions from our fans, all of whom are big fans of Casey.
Awesome.
And so we're going to just jump right into those. So Emily asked a question before. Good. Emily had asked a question before I announced the person who was our who was on KSA this week, and so hers was just open to anyone. Generally speaking, do you enjoy time travel stories? And what story do you think did time travel the best?
I laugh because this is common is probably too strong of a word, but this is a conversation between RA and I, because he has a difference of opinion, but I'll let him share his own. I enjoy time traveling stories because I enjoy stories that I enjoy looking at how the decisions we make impact our lives. I very much think small decisions and small actions can lead to bigger experiences and impact our lives heavily. And so I like that time travel stories explore that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, ours was not a small moment or small decision. It was very big. I don't know that I have an answer prepared for what did it well. Mm-hmm. My normal go-to for at least intriguing is the movie Primer.
Yeah.
I really like the way they approached it and handled it. But other than that, I don't get into the doesn't that contradict and wouldn't that mean that? Because time travel quickly becomes sorry, words are hard today. It is easy to make it not make sense.
Yeah, certainly. I like, as a time travel story, I'm a big fan of Timeline. The movie's okay, but the book by Michael Crichton, like most Crichton books, he does a really good job of making the science at least sound plausible. It is, whether it really is, if you're actually skilled in particle physics or whatever he's messing with, right. I don't know. But to someone who doesn't know anything about science, it sure sounds like it made sense.
Okay. I like when they try.
And I enjoy the period. I mean, it's obviously they're traveling back to the Middle Ages, and that's my jam. But I like a lot of the little touches that he notices that are noticed immediately. One of the, because it's a bunch of archaeologists and history nerds going back to the Middle Ages to try and find somebody.
Awesome.
Because they have the necessary skills. And the company that's invented time travel lost somebody on their last trip. And they just immediately notice little things like how much farther they can see in unpolluted air. And how...
Oh, that's a cool detail.
How much more oxygen rich an undeforested Europe is, and how that affects your breathing, and lots of little things that it would not occur to me to deal with, in addition to being a fairly action heavy swashbuckling medieval adventure, which is always in my view a plus. So
right. That sounds
I like
time
travel. Yeah, I like timeline. The movie is okay, but the book is a lot of fun. Okay. But generally, I don't usually love time travel as a trope, mostly because while I like alternate history for the same reason of looking at how did this one thing, if it changed, how does it change history? But time travel usually feels like it just ends up falling into endless contradiction, and so I have a hard time enjoying it. Time travel works okay in a very limited fashion, I think.
I get that. I like the philosophical discussion it provides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As nerdy as a response as that is. But the actual mechanics of it, and yes, if you think too much about it, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But it's easy for me to be like, I like looking at the impact of our choices and how we treat people.
Right. So then Nathan asks, how far ahead in the adventure are the players from the audience? So you are probably actually the best person to answer this because you've been tracking it on a calendar.
I have been
we recorded last
on a
night. We got 2 more episodes in last night. So what did that get us up to?
Through Halloween.
Okay.
So yesterday's recording session got us to October 31st.
Yep. So it is, if you're watching this later, it is September 15th. So we're about 6 weeks ahead. And I think we all would have hoped to get a little farther ahead because obviously we're planning on having a bit of a break here for the exciting delivery of Casey and RA's baby, which will be coming up soon. So we're anticipating a delightfully caused break, a little break in our recording schedule. So we tried to get well ahead, and we got 6 weeks ahead, which is not bad, but it would have been good to get a few more in, I think. But we'll be just
that's
fine.
why I was tracking. I was really hoping to make it into most of November. I know RA was hoping to get to the end of the year, but coordinating 5 people's lives is a lot.
Yep, it is, especially with school starting back up for you and me and all the things that came in there.
Right.
Just, yep. But yeah, so we're about 6 weeks ahead. The upside is maybe when we start recording again, KSAs will be a little bit easier because we won't be having to rewind so far in our brains to what we recorded this like in the beginning of August. What was that?
Well, and KSAs have been a little bit difficult in not giving away what's coming up because so much of the story is developed and we know the resolution of so many of the questions that have been brought up recently. And so trying not to spoil that. Wait, what do you know? Yes.
Really funny example of that. A few episodes back, we had a big fight that got split into 2 episodes. And for the second episode, I recorded a recap, but I recapped the episode that we were releasing that day. Like I recapped the episode that was being watched. And luckily RA caught it right after the episode dropped. So I just pulled it back down for a minute and went into the YouTube editor and chopped out the recap and just left it out. But yes, it is hard to remember what not to say. Nathan says, what did you think was going to happen when you went to Hirazi for help with Ezra?
I have such a disappointing answer for this, Nathan. I'm so sorry. I don't know. In Casey as Shade knew that Hirazi had more magic. And Shade didn't know how to bring anybody back from the dead or how to fix something. So she thought, who's the biggest magic user that I can get to immediately? And that was Hirazi. I have an amulet that will let me transport back to her lair once a week. Yes, once a week. And so I didn't know what possibilities. And thinking back, when we first met Hirazi, I think she does reference, well, That's silly. She obviously references time travel because
right.
she saved as many people as she could and sent them into different eras. But that's definitely not what I was thinking of at the time. I was hoping that she had some magic that would just, he's better now. I tend to play healers, are my go-to archetypes in most campaigns or role-playing games in general, even if they're online. And so that's where my mind tends to go, is just a spell to bring them back from the dead. Time travel is definitely not what I was thinking.
Is it difficult for you not playing a healer and knowing that at the level you guys are finally at, you're finally at the level where you could just fix these things if you were playing a cleric?
Yep. It is really hard. There's so many things that could have been prevented, or fights that could have been prolonged, or Ari knockouts that didn't need to happen because my standard character could have just, here's the spell, whoop. So yes, I don't love not having a lot of healing spells. I like having that in the back pocket.
It's nice, yeah. Yeah, this party as a single unit really is kind of a glass cannon. Like, other than Pog, none of you are super tough. Ari's got a lot of AC, but not enough hit points to back it up. And so it's very much you guys hit like a truck, but can't take too much, which I actually like as a game master, because it tends to make the fights fast and visceral. And so we don't tend to get long dragging fights.
And we are put in genuine danger.
Yeah.
I have absolutely noticed in the past that it is easy for you to set up these enemies that are strong. There's formidable opponents. There we go. And then being able to just keep healing until we whittle them down. But not being able to do that, we're put in some situations often where there's very real danger, and we have to consider cutting and running, or what are we willing to give up our lives for? And I think it creates some really interesting moments and questions and opportunities for the party dynamics too, of who's protecting whom and what do we do in those moments. And it just gives some fun character moments. Fun, dark, daunting, same thing.
Interesting, at least.
There we
go. From Nathan also, how is Kael going to be avenged for the indignity of Esri's attack upon him?
I don't have a plan yet. But goodness, Kael did not enjoy that, and Shade did not appreciate that. Especially being tied up with all of the... And I know this is probably more to put on that situation than intended or is necessary, but, they except for Esri, all of them were forced into the Black Wheel program. And so just this idea of forcing someone into something against their will is just it just shakes Shade to her core. It's something that absolutely bothers her. And so even though it was just a hat dominating someone like that, and I know Esri has done it before with the monsters, and obviously Shade's morals are not consistent. It's very much, are you hurting someone I love? Grr. Are you hurting someone that I don't love? Meh.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
But
RA himself counters with, but why no Kael in hat?
Obviously not the real issue, RA. Cal clearly looks adorable in a hat.
That's fan
because
art.
he's the
You need fan art of
handsomest all the time.
Kael in a hat. So, Nathan, after some recovery time, what would Shade like to do next if no adventure is thrust upon the Strike Force? If Shade had downtime, what would Shade do with it?
Oof. What would Shade do with her downtime? She would probably try to develop more relationships with Solarca and then Moonspears. I think she realizes that she has a lot to learn from them. They just have such interesting skills and knowledge that she would love to know more about. And then spending time with River, because she genuinely loves spending time with River. And River has come so far, and Shade's so proud of her.
Well, that will please the fans. Everybody who watches really enjoys it anytime River gets on screen. So
she's amazing. Philip, this is your fault. You just create really fantastic NPCs.
Well, thank you. I like creating NPCs. It's fun.
Good.
Nathan has another question, but I'm going to come back to it. Laura asks, how did Cal feel about going to this secret Vatalist facility considering where we found him? Which is not a question that I had thought about.
I think that's a great question. And I remember thinking about it, and I don't know when I did, if it was in the moment or afterwards, because this is one of those problems of being 6 weeks out. I wish I had, if I did not, communicated a ferocity of Cal's attacks in the Vatalist facility, because this is almost personal to him too. This idea of being captured and kept against your will is something that he and Shade resonate with. And knowing that just these incredible creatures are being twisted and demented to serve others would absolutely upset him as much as it upset Shade. Sure. And so Cal was not there just because Shade was. It was absolutely intentional for him as well.
Yeah. I think definitely there was communicated a relentlessness, because we definitely saw that Cal and Nardali were not going to stop going after Tyrus. And I really enjoy the fact that both Cal and Nardali got to kill Tyrus once.
That's so true. Okay, so yes, that's a good point. So that the willingness to separate in a way that Cal and Shade don't normally separate was part of that driving force. Was he isn't there to protect Shade in this case. That's not his role. He's there to do what he can to destroy this place and get what he can out of it.
Laura also
Cal's
asks,
awesome.
Cal is awesome. Shade's fox form on her HeroForge character has her mark showing, but you implied during the tattoo ceremony that she covers up less because of the fur. Is it, presumably her mark, is it visible at all when she is in fox form? Do you imagine? So I would say, just from the GM perspective, that when Shade activates it, it definitely flares even through the fur. But I don't know whether you imagine that it's almost like a scar where the fur doesn't grow there, or if it's the pattern mirrors itself onto the fur, or how do you picture it?
That's what I picture it as, is Um, and I was looking for pictures to try to describe this because I don't know if verbally I'll be able to communicate it well, so I apologize. But, you know, when you look closely at animals' fur, it's very rarely a single color. It's just that
Right.
mixture of so many different shades. And even in foxes, they have those, we think of them as red, but there's just the beautiful shades of orange and yellow and reds throughout. And so the way that I picture it on her arm is that she is orangey fur, but that there's the pattern in much more of the reds. And so it isn't overt, you know, it's not like green on her skin. It is a natural color to it, but it is the same pattern, and it is the fur is a different color there. And so if you look closely, you can see it, but it's not quite the stark contrast as when she's in her human form.
Cool. So Emily added, not a question, but wishing you the best for an easy birth, quick recovery, and a healthy baby.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For future reference, this is our last KSA before we anticipate the arrival of Casey and RA's baby. So we'll probably give Casey a break from showing up on KSAs for a little bit at least. And Nathan, to that topic, Nathan asks, to whatever extent you're comfortable talking about your personal life on the internet, how are you doing with/feeling about your pregnancy, upcoming very soon delivery, and parenting?
I'm probably an oversharer generally in real life, so I will try to balance that well with this public forum. But I'm pretty comfortable talking about most things in my personal life fairly openly. I am nervous about the delivery. I am very excited to hold my baby, just having carried him for so long, and this idea of I always know where he is right now, and soon he will not be with me constantly. And so that part makes me a little bit anxious. And then my pregnancy has been luckily very, very easy, but I have had a few complications that are requiring us to have a scheduled C-section. And so I am a little bit nervous about that, just how the complications could affect it. However, I hear scheduled C-section is really a very relaxed way to have a delivery, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then, please forgive me, he asked about parenting as well. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. Upcoming delivery and parenting.
I'm nervous about that. I very much want to be a good parent. And thank goodness I have a lot of wonderful parents in my life that have offered to help in any way RA and I need it. So I'm grateful for that. But I'm nervous because I know every kid's unique and every experience is different. And I tend to be a fairly anxious person, and so I like to plan, and you can't really plan for the
right.
Who knows? So I am excited to see what kind of parent I am. I can see me being I can see different parts of me. I can see, having high expectations and being strict, and I can see being chill and letting, the kid be who they are. And so I'm curious what comes out.
Yes, I definitely understand that. Not knowing who exactly you'll be as a parent going into it, it's definitely not predictable. But it's it's very exciting. We're all happy to have another little adventurer come into the world.
I'm excited about that. Like, I get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
The idea of introducing him to games and what kind of games he's going to enjoy. And I've absolutely already thought about that. Like, when he's going to sit at the table with us and play D&D, and what kind of characters is he going to be drawn towards.
My bet is there will be a point where he sits at the table with us and plays D&D a lot, but not participatorily, but like on your lap or in Adam's arms, or, you know, and then probably a period where he doesn't before he comes back.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Or maybe participating in the way that babies do of grabbing all the little things.
Right. I bet he will absolutely love my collection of dice.
Yes. Maybe not letting go of them. Because my understanding is the grabbing things comes before you figure out how to make the muscles relax.
The releasing of things.
Yeah, we're very excited, and certainly wish you and RA all of the best and the
thank you.
most comfortable and stress-free that it is possible for it to be. But
thank you.
that concludes our questions for this KSA. Thank you all so much for these questions. We really enjoy getting to see them and answer them. And thank you all so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so in comments down below, or there's various social media links in the description. We have a Discord that you can find down there, as well as a merch store if you want your own Strike Force hoodie with the excellent lightning arc art of inspired by Forge and Casey and Colin being the most delightful amount of chaos in this game. And new episodes of Khyber Shards every Monday. New Khyber Shards answers every Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.